The Aquarian age is the balance between masculine and feminine energy. We're moving into the Aquarian age. So it's happening. I'll give an example. I know the energy, Aquarian age. Okay, Aquarius represents all of these things. So I could tell you where the world's going because I know where the energy is. It's energy first, and then the symptom is the physical world that we get to see. So I'll give an example. Transgender was the extreme balance between masculine and feminine. And now you're seeing more and more versions of it. Now we have the full spectrum. So men are becoming more feminine and women are becoming more masculine. That's the feminist movement, where the hardcore version of it, or the extreme version of it, it was, okay, women are going to go to work, they're going to work out, they're going to get jacked, they're going to make millions of dollars, they're going to be super famous. That's that's the masculine side overpowering their feminine side, because their feminine side is nurturing and loving and the home and the family and the emotions and the feelings. So what happened was, because the Aquarian age energy is hitting the world, we have to go from, we're living, if you live on the North Pole, in order to land in the middle, you want to go to the South Pole, and then you land at the equator. Does that make sense? So women were living women were living in the North Pole, men were living in the South Pole. If I want to rebalance, it's fastest if I go to the other end of the world. You go to the other end of the world, then you'll know where the balance is. Because you know where the edges are. Does that make sense?
Whoa, I'm like still comprehending a bit. It's an interesting point.
It's the fastest way to learn. If you want to learn, okay, I'll give a real world example. Is if I want to understand what meat will do to my body, I'll eat meat every single day for the next 30 days and only meat. That's
So it's almost like going to the opposite end of the spectrum to come back to balance. So like if someone was a people pleaser, maybe they have to go into their like mean era and then come back to balance to understand.
Exactly. If I'm super nice, then I'm going to be super mean. Oh, there's a balance point that's actually healthy, because on the edges are an experience, and the edges are needed. And some people will always live on the edge. Some people will live in balance, but the Aquarian age is rebalancing everything. It's rebalancing the power structures. It's rebalancing the masculine and feminine energy. So it doesn't matter how we're going to rebalance it, but the hormones in food that are making men more feminine, or the plastics or the chemicals in our clothing are making men more feminine. Well, the working out and the extra pumping of estrogen and all that is changing the hormone profile of women, and now women are becoming more masculine. And then you have the narrative, which is women should get paid equally and all that. And I don't want to go into what's right or wrong about that. It's more about the energy, right? So women are now going heavy masculine, men are going heavy feminine, and then there's going to be a rebalancing of the poles soon. That's what we're seeing now. And that, I don't even know how we ended up here, but
that's okay. I love your tangents.
Let's track back for a moment. So we were talking about, you need both in order to move through the world in harmony. Because if I'm overacting and over dominant, over masculine, then I'm going to be unbalanced and I have to balance something. So we did it together before. Aquarian energy is very independent, but they are interdependent. What I mean by that is, so you have codependent, means I rely on you and I need you all the time. And if you're not there, then I suffer, right? Independent means I don't need anyone and I'm all good and I'm totally satiated myself. Interdependent is, I don't need you, I am fully independent, but we're coming together and doing things to help each other. So we're going to Aquarian energy, which is interdependent. And why that's important is because coming out of Pisces, you had masculine, men, feminine, woman, and they had a healthy balance. They had a healthy balance. Then it started to go, and the energy shifted to Aquarius, and it said, oh, let's stir the pot here, and because it was more of a codependent relationship. Men did something that women couldn't do. Women did things that men couldn't do. And so they had to work together in order to live in harmony. We're coming out of that. People are now going back into their body, not outside anymore. We're coming out of codependent. We're coming out of, I need that in order to feel good. We're coming back into our bodies, into into harmony because we're balancing the polarities.
Wow.
So the energy was masculine and feminine, right? And you had the men and the women. So men, they would go out, they would hunt, they would farm, they would do all the hard work that, you know, the women weren't really as good at. They could do it, but it wasn't their best. Women did their role. Now it's balancing. And that's what the world's doing. Now people will get mad at the system and they'll get mad at the rules or they'll get mad at the chemicals. It's just supporting the energy. It doesn't matter how we get there. I mean, there's a more fun way of getting there and then there's a more, you know what I mean?
And maybe the anger is a part of the process too.
Yeah.
Like letting things come to the surface. Like you were saying earlier about the boundaries as well. Starting to understand when somebody crosses your line or where you need to set your boundary or where you need to be more flexible.
Yes. And right now is it's one of the greatest shifts that we will ever see in the way that the world is run. Because we're going from masculine and feminine. You know, they did this in like mid 90s. They shifted it and said a single working person could support an entire family. Then all of a sudden you needed two people to support the whole family. That forced the energetics was saying we need to go this direction. So then the world presented an opportunity or a stimulant or a trigger to stimulate the energy to move in that direction, which is women to take more of a masculine approach and men to take more of a feminine approach. So it doesn't matter, like there's so many different ways to get there at the end result.